There we go. What would you like me to talk about today?
Truth. Humility.
What was the other one? Okay, go ahead.
Michael, how about the beginning, creation and versus evolution?
Nature and the specialness of trees. Nature and the specialness of trees.
Ooh. Okay. What is it? Okay. Okay, that's good. Thanks. Okay. And I'm sorry, the folks online might not have heard all those, but there's numerous, so that's why I can't repeat them all to you. They included love, soul retrieval, nature of trees, ancient, was it civilizations? Answers, ancient ancestors, truth, and so on. Okay, there were others. All right, now, so let's start with understanding hidden behind everything is the presence of God. That's pretty easy for most people with spiritual ideas at all to understand. Hidden, behind everything is God. Where it gets twisted by almost everybody is then they regurgitate that back and say, behind everything is God. God is everywhere. Then they say, because God is everywhere or God's behind everything, it means God is in war, God is in rape, God is in abuse, and so on. Which is a logical conclusion. Because if you have a group of people that you convince that God is behind everything, God is in all things, they go, oh, okay, amen, God's in all things. Now you've hooked them into believing, therefore God's in war and everywhere else. See? Because that's a natural, logical deduction. But no. You're just not thinking it through all the way. God is behind all things, unseen. God isn't the war or the abuse. The power that we use to create our madness is God. So what's behind all creation is the power to create, which is given by God. So in a strange, roundabout way, you could say God is in all things, but has nothing to do with the way it manifested. So when they say, God was behind this side of a war or that side of a war, God isn't like that. God is only the presence of love and bliss. It can't engage and become something else other than in the way we channel it. I can stand here and the truth that I access when I'm teaching is I go to God. People say, well, where do you get this information? As soon as you ask that, it's almost not worth my answering. Because as soon as you get in your head to question where I get my information, we're having a head argument. No, I want to know where you're getting that. Okay, college. When will it impress you enough? Oh, let's say I have a degree or 50 degrees at some point. Oh, now it becomes acceptable to you? See, that's not how I am. It's like Saint Germain, great, Buddha, they said, I'm not teaching you what I got in books. It's written in life itself. I'm channeling what's already here. But that doesn't mean any of us can claim to be perfect channels per se, because it still comes through this person. So it doesn't matter how high it is, it comes through our filters. The question is how many filters and how many of our filters have been taken over by the ego? Because the ego can corrupt every one of your files. And so no Word documents that are coming through are flawless. They're all messed up because of the corrupt viruses that we've downloaded in our belief systems, bad karma and whatever else. So partly all of us are on this spiritual path, and we might have ideas of what that means. Oh, we're growing, we're evolving, we're actually just remembering. There's different ways to describe this process, but one way to describe it is we're actually becoming better channels, clearer channels. That's basically what we're becoming. We're becoming clearer channels where when you, the way Jesus said it, when you see me, you see the Father. See? And that's not to be a boast, and it's not to stand at a podium, all of us, and tell the world about it. It's in all the things we do to be as good of a channel as we can be. But a channel doesn't mean channeling discarnate beings particularly, not in this context. I'm talking about how we can just channel the presence of love. How can I be an example of that today? How can I be of service? How can I be a good friend, or whatever it happens to be? So in this world, there's this idea, and people start, well, why does God allow? That classic question. If there's a God, you got the atheist and the agnostic. If there's a God, why does it allow war? What do you do with that? Why does it allow politics to become what politics are? See, now you're stuck, but you're forgetting there are other dimensions outside the box that we're not considering. There's one really strange one, which is God has nothing to do with the stuff you're saying God is allowing. God allows us to create because that's the power of God. If we choose to miscreate, that was our choice. Now, is God behind that? No, the power of God is behind our miscreations. What we miscreated was not God's vote. We overrode, vetoed its opinion, and did what we wanted to do. Well, why does God allow that? I'm sorry, what is it supposed to do? Obliterate you for doing it? Then you would say, why is God obliterating me? Oh, gone. And you'd blame God for that. So we're just always the fault finding, even with God. There's got to be another way. So God is not supportive of our miscreations. But God is saying, how do you feel about those miscreations? Fine. Oh, okay, denial. But okay, go ahead, children. You feel good about starting another war. Okay, I hear, And the next day, how are you feeling today about it? Denial. How many days? Eventually, when we suffer enough, God says, how are you feeling about that war you started? War meaning a conflict with a person or a global war, whatever it is. How are you feeling about that? And someday we're going to go, I don't like this. And God will say, would you like? And it's really the Divine Mother. It's the Holy Spirit of God that has these conversations with us. And it says, would you like to try a different route? When we say yes to better, we've evolved. That's how simple it can be. When we say yes to more love, and God help global leaders because they got into position by being in their heads, voted into position by people in their heads, meaning their other politicians, and then convincing the head of other people that they should vote for them. And so we just have all these heads sitting around, talking heads, doing these things called running the world. Any politician that has ever existed in any country, at any capacity, from mayor on up, that chose to open their heart and say, God, what would you have me do? That is not only rare, it's brilliant. It's almost impossible to pull off, allowing God into a thing, an ism of some kind, that doesn't want its presence. So be patient and forgiving a bit towards politicians because they're up against what is next to impossible. Yet, how can we make a difference? I'm not going to be able to change that. And we can say, I'm going to change. I'm going to run for office. By the time you get there, you will have been so pummeled and hypnotized into doing it their way, because that's how you get there. You do it their way. It's not typical for a Senate or Congress, whomever these people are, to say, let's breathe for a moment. I just want to say that this one guy running for office, you can feel divine presence in this guy or girl. And I just want to say, why don't we just erase dualities of Republican and Democrat? Let's just go with guidance. You see, it's just not typically easily going to go that way. And I was talking to somebody who's got quite a bit of power in this world yesterday, and it was very, in a sense, sad because they were talking about ideas and visions that they had that, despite their abilities to make a difference in the world, that whenever they try, the ideas get hijacked and pummeled by other people in their walk of life. And I sat and, I listened and I said, I want you to, because they said, and now I feel just disheartened because I'm trying to make these great things happen. Again, you go and try to make things happen. This world is not looking for that. The world, miscreated world, is not looking for answers. They're going to try to beat up every one of your ideas. You can say, my partnership is completely abusive. I might have to end it. And you're going to go through hell whether you end it or you don't end it. Because the ego wants to beat you up to where you're lifeless. So very few of us can say, you know what, I got an idea, it's an inspiration, and I'm going to feed that inspiration, focus, and go. To the end. And that is called an immaculate conception. When you can have an idea come to you and follow it all the way through to the end, it's an immaculate conception all the way to an immaculate birth. Immaculate meaning pure. I refuse to allow all the stuff of this world to beat up my ideas. I refuse to allow this world to twist it until I'm lifeless over this and uninspired. And, it's easy to become uninspired. It's not so easy to stay inspired, but that's only because of the world we've miscreated. We're living in a time when the world is now switching over. This whole world, reality is backwards. There's a title, okay, for your online. Reality is backwards. It is backwards. The world that we think is real is the one that's false. The one that screams the loudest is actually the most worthless. The one that sits, the still small voice, waiting for our request to hear it, seems hard. But that's only because we're so stubborn and programmed to be a certain way. Lao Tzu writes the Tao Te Ching, and in there he's like, my words are easy to understand. Really? Let's try that on for size. That which is, isn't until it is. And then even then it might not be. Maybe. Oh, I got it. Wow. That's changed my life. But I believe him. I believe him. When he said my words are easy, I believe him. What he's saying is, your head is so messed up and in control of your heart, you can't hear what I'm actually saying. Because the heart speaks more like the Tao Te Ching. That's how it speaks. But why doesn't he put it in plain English? Why should he? So that it's acceptable to your ego? Then the pages are worthless. They're blank. It'll just be ego-feeding kinds of things. Something has to break the trance. And sometimes that's other language, like ancient cultures. One of you brought something like that up. Ancient cultures that used language that was more right brain. Like Yoda. Yoda's scripting was coming from an ancient civilization and there are more than one, but that speak kind of backwards. Powerful are we? Why didn't you just say we are powerful? No, because your brain already knows how to cancel out positive statements if they're said the ego's way. Say it backwards and the ego's going, wait, what did they say? And it's already in me. I heard it and I absorbed it already. Angry is the ego. It's like, yes. Threatened are you? So, so we're in this world and everything is flip-flopped. I shared a couple weeks ago, we have three minds. The divine mind, the soul mind, and the human mind. Let's understand this. The divine mind is the mind of God in us. That's your spirit. The soul mind is the second part of ourselves. That's the part of us that thinks we're on a journey in a universe. But it's a journey without distance to a place we never left. I'm still divine mind. But I think I separated from God and I'm on a journey. That's our soul mind. And then there's the human mind. The divine mind can create. It's a source creator, a term I'm going to make up. It's called a source creator. It's a real source creator in us, God. The soul mind is a chooser. It's a source creator, kind of, but only when it chooses to follow the guidance of God, the divine mind. So my soul mind is only in its righteousness, holiness, when it follows divine mind. Can it happen? Yes. Does it happen all the time? Rare for people, typically. And so there's a third called the human mind. We actually think the human mind is in charge. You know, I was thinking the other day, oh God, sorry to hear that. That's how we should respond to people. I was thinking about something the other day, oh, I'm sorry. You know, I think, therefore I am not. The more my head kicks in, it may look like I'm just, contemplating. The more my head kicks in, it's a form of obsessing. And the reason human beings obsess is because they're having some sort of feelings that they don't know how to deal with, so they start thinking. So thinking is a reaction to being afraid. And I don't just mean righteously afraid. I mean just feeling like we're not in control. So in a moment when some new inspiration comes, it enters the soul mind, right? But the soul mind, we have a problem, Houston. The soul mind can follow divine mind, or it can use free will to say, no, I will follow this other thing that I created called the ego. I want to listen to my ego today. Ego meaning fear, the hurtful, selfish part of us. Self-saboteur, that's the ego self. So we can hear God, or we can pause, shut that trap door between us and God, and ask for advice over here from counsel from the ego. The third mind, the human mind, doesn't do anything. Your neurology, biology, anatomy, and so on. They don't do anything. If your soul leaves your body isn't still sitting there playing cards. It's not, your body's dead. Dead. It's neutralized. So, remember that divine mind is the source creator. Soul mind can choose to follow that or not. It's the chooser. One's a creator, one's a chooser. And being a chooser, it can choose the other so it can still be in divinity. But the human is only an effect, not a cause. Your human self is only an effect. Okay? Having money, affection, all the things of anything in the material world, we think it's going to make our lives better, but it's important for us to understand. It's only an effect. If you got a new car today that you think makes you feel better, actually what happened is something inside got aligned properly. You feel better because you're more connected to God. But outside, the ego said, well, maybe it's something else. Look at the new car. Oh, I feel better. And you made it about the car or the person in your life. Follow? And that's miscreating again. If only this country, if only we could take over that country, if only we could change this, that, the other. Whether it's on our body or in our nation or whatever, they're only an effect. And this is very, very, very important for us to get. If it's true, and I assure you that it is, that your human self cannot do anything. It only reflects what you're doing on a soul level. Well, I would like to be really happy, but my body is sick. My body got an illness. It can't do anything that the soul hasn't agreed upon. Oh, now some people are like, oh, I don't like this guy. This is bull. He's telling me my soul agreed. I don't remember that. Oh, that makes me, inaccurate. Just because you want to be in denial. It's okay. It doesn't make us bad. We're ridiculous. Anytime we're not choosing God as our source, we're ridiculous. If you follow the ego, it's kind of silly. Because you're following something that isn't even real. It's powerless. So you shouldn't have to beat yourself up over this. Laugh at yourself, though. It's okay. You're going to have something like, oh, I lost some money today, but Michael says, I guess I created that. There's this new crime that's been happening here in Sedona, where this conversation kicks in. Where typically you have like city streets, purse snatching and that sort of thing. They do it very differently in Sedona. Now, when they run by, grab your purse, they say, why did you create that? Okay? It doesn't help just to tell people, well, you created that. Guys, that's not compassionate with somebody that's hurting. That's just, it's not good. Don't pull that. When people have had hurts, telling them they created it isn't helpful at all. But you knowing that the soul in all of us participates in creating that will help, because it pulls responsibility into the moment and we can change the moment. This is only, down here is only an effect. What you believe in your human head, what you experience with your human body, what you experience with your human emotions, they're all an effect. None of them are actually causing you anything. They can't. They're only a mirror. They're only a reflection. Now, if you look in a mirror and say, I'm going to have a bad day because the mirror has smudges on it, that's a little strange. Clean the mirror. So we can clean up our human effect. We can say, basically the human self is a signpost. It's a mirror. It tells you how you're doing on the inside. We keep trying to fix, because everything's flip-flopped. We keep trying to fix ourselves by fixing the outside. But there is no outside. It's a hologram of the inside. So do I need to fix my divinity? Yes or no? I don't think I have to fix divinity. It's divine. Should I fix my human self? It's just an effect. So what do I have to work on? My soul. What is in my soul? Choices and belief systems. Here. This is what I need to work on. Here's another very common thing people say, including me. But do we agree that you have a light inside, like a spark? Do we agree? Yeah. Okay. So we have a spark, and we call it God or even the soul, right? Yeah. Cool. So we can agree that that exists. And that's commonly taught. The greatest teachers, the greatest authors, there's this conversation about this spark inside. And I use that metaphor as well, because it's simple. And it's what most people believe. But it's actually not true. Right. You have a spark of light and God inside. No, you do not. It's backwards. You are not a human with a spark of God. You are God with a spark of human. It's the other way around. Why don't we get that? Because it just slipped by the ego, wanted to become a reality, a programmed belief. Why would the ego want you to believe anything about a spark? Because it pulled off thinking in us, getting us to think that we're lucky to find that little spark of God. I'm on a search for God, which means it's somewhere. And then somebody who's mystical will go, beloved, you've been on a search outside for God, and it was always inside. And it sounds more accurate. And we can all go, wow, that's pretty cool. It was inside all the time. And I'm telling you, no, it isn't. Your soul, metaphorically, is the size of the universe. It is not a spark inside your body. Your soul is actually it's actually greater than the universe, but I'm using that because it's simpler for the mind. Your soul is actually the size of the universe. Ooh, yeah. It is. And it's just having a bad dream about this little thing that bothers you. And we're thinking, if I can just get my human world to go right, I'll be better off. You are pretty damn well off. You're the size of the universe. Why doubt yourself anymore? Get this, and look what happens. Look, my body, which seems like it's this size, is diseased. And so I'm off, I'm unhappy, and now I can't even get in touch with God or my soul because I'm so unhappy. The body affecting you, that's backwards. It's not capable of affecting you. It is an effect, not a cause. Creator. Think about this. Now, that doesn't mean that a kachoo, you got to sneeze, and you got a cold, and it negates what I'm saying. It's the programming that doesn't allow us to totally own this yet. But it is our destiny. God created us like this. We're pretending to be like this, and we have to get over ourselves. That's all. We just have to go, oh, wait, I get it. Now, if you think, well, it's impractical because, if I'm the size of the universe, why can't I even find my car keys? Because you've allowed yourself to believe you're little. All of us have. I am not a body. I am free, for I am as God created me. That's the truth of God. When we say, hey, God, we think we're humans in a big human world. Oh, it's a big, bad world out there. There is no world. It's a hologram. And my belief that I'm in that hologram is also a hologram. The reality is, as you've heard it said, we're not humans having a spiritual experience. We're spirits having a human experience. We're just having a dream, a holographic experience that says, what would life be like if I were small? That's what it would look like. Oh man, I'm on my 8th marriage. I still don't have any money, and my car, has no tires. It's up on blocks, and yet I get in it every day and accelerate, trying to go somewhere, and I go nowhere. And then my body started failing, and so that's what we think this world's about. Or I found a better job, got new tires, and you think that's the spiritual path. You're still talking about something that isn't there. So that's what A Course in Miracles would call the happy dream. So there's nothing wrong with improving your life. But don't think that that determines who you are, because you're still talking about a small world. It's nothing compared to how truly great we are. And I'm not giving a motivational talk. You can do it. You can do anything. You're grand. I'm saying we are. That is the truth of God. But we learn to make the truth a lie and a lie the truth. I am a vast being, so grand that we created the entire universe. The entire universe. I mean, if you look at the nature of one flower, it's pretty complex and amazing. Try to imagine the whole universe, how complex and amazing. Think about it. Nebulas, dimensions, portals, wormholes, etc., right? It's like, wow. And yet, all of that is a dot in my consciousness. My soul is so incredible, it could think up this entire universe, which it did. This entire universe is our doing. When I can accept that, it becomes easier to say, Lazarus, come forth, and a dead person gets up. It's easier to say, prosperity is mine, and it comes forward. When we're courageous enough to own this, in a sense, that's the real purpose to bringing God into your 12-step type of work. It wasn't supposed to be said backwards, which is, I'm pathetic, I can't do anything right, so I have to call on a higher power. It really helps to say, I am also that divine power. So I have everything within me to pull this off. Not, God, I hope God's watching because I'm going to need some help. Why do you need help? Because my addiction's bigger than other people's. It's much more intense, so mine's a bad one. So God, I'm going to need some extra help. That's better than nothing. But imagine that we land the higher interpretation of that. That I have all that power within myself to pull that off. And I have the power to do anything. Mastery consciousness. We are told even in the Bible and even by Jesus, we are gods and goddesses. Well, how am I a god and goddess when I think I'm a little human being who's gotten nothing but problems? Or minor accomplishments and I think I'm amazing? Why would this book, why would Jesus tell us you're gods and goddesses and not be telling the truth? And if they are telling the truth, why don't we act like it? Why don't we get it? Why does this sound supernatural, what I'm saying, instead of natural? We really are universal beings. Nothing has power over you. It's okay that you have thought so. And if you're struggling with entities, they look like they have power over you. Disease, germs, they look like they have power over you. I get that. And I would stand with you, and if you told me you had, whatever, a virus, I'll say bless you when you sneeze. Runny nose, I'll hand you a tissue. Entities bothering you, we'll do some work on that. One of you asked about soul retrieval types of work. When you do your work, such as soul retrieval, fighting other forces, you made them real. Am I telling you don't play the game? You got to respect the illusion. So maybe you're taking antibiotics with an invasive virus of some kind, but also in here, you start to change the way you look at this. And while you're laying there, ka-choo, vomit, don't forget God. Go ahead, do that stuff, let it out. But in between, visits to the bowl, the holy bowl, holy bowlers. Between visits, stop and say, and isn't this funny? The truth of the matter is, this thing that's happening is a dream in my mind. It has no real power. vomit, vomit, vomit. And it feels like it does, because that's the ego trying to, no, it does. Please, don't lose your mind. Go through the motions and bounce back. Go through the motions and bounce back. Get a divorce and bounce back. Get sick and bounce back. Feel sad and bounce back. It's ours. We have the power to do this, but it's ours, our job, and our destiny to wake up from believing that this is the power and that we're tiny. What we've done to ourselves, guys, let's again say the size of the universe, and I'm telling you, the universe is small, I mean it, in comparison to your consciousness. But if we use the universe as an example, and we say that your consciousness is the size of the universe, here's what we did. We decided that we're less than the holy beings God created us to be, and we started what's called falling, the fall from heaven, the fall from grace. And when that started happening, you know what we did? We packed ourselves into a little piece of luggage and zipped ourselves up into bodysuits, skin. And we walk around acting like that's us. So I'm in a skin suit looking for spirit, which is pretty ironic, right? It's pretty ironic. Unzip the skin suit, boom, everything explodes. We have near-death experiences because for a moment we unzipped and we popped out of our body and we're like, oh my God, I became one with the universe and all that. Then zip back up. Oh my God, I hate my life. It happens to a lot of people. Most that unzip and pop out for a minute, almost all NDEs, near-death experiences, say, I don't want to go back. You know, one minute they're like in their skin suits, oh, and I love my dog and my furry children, and, you know, kids, and my mother, and I love my children. Unzip, pop out, they're like, what mother, what kids? I'm staying here, man. Try to imagine a mother's love can be overridden that quickly. That's how profound universal love is. I know that sounds sacrilegious to mommies, but it's not Mother's Day, so forgive me, okay? You pop out and it's like, oh my God. So try this on more often. Try and imagine only when I think I'm a limited person stuck in a bodysuit, and even in this body, anatomy, physiology, biology, and then way down inside there's this little spark of thing, something called God or spirit. That's what we reduced ourselves to. So this little spark, which most people, many people, aren't in touch with regularly, and some don't even believe it exists. They think this thing that we zipped up is the reality. So we walk around and look at other bodysuits. Hey man, you're looking great. You know what we need, you and me, to get together. We'll create other bodysuit beings. And we call that relationships and families and on and on. But what about freeing everybody up? What about saying to your children, I have the agenda I gave you as a body-suited person, but there's your soul, and that's beyond my comprehension. I believe you have all kinds of power. So I'm going to start nurturing that in you. Oh, that's okay. What are you going to do with that? Well, Mom, I've got this problem. Oh, that's terrible. You can't fix that, because there's rules and laws and beliefs. Instead to say, oh, what are you going to do? See, nurturing like the imagination, which is just an example of how infinite our consciousness is. Technically, think about it, technically, you can't limit imagination. That's the whole point, right? You can limit human conductivity in the brain because we only use a few percent, so apparently that can be boxed in, but imagination cannot be. So as we nurture more imagination, we're nurturing more of our soul, this thing that we think is in here. And you'll hear me say sometimes, your soul right in here. That's not because I'm contradicting. I say that because that's what we're used to hearing. So I use the metaphor because it makes sense to most people. It's a little harder to say, your soul and go back and refer to the universe and all that. It's a bit much for some people. So just imagine this. There is nothing, no problem that cannot be solved in my real self. But if I deflate who I am and inflate who I'm not, it will look like there are problems I cannot deal with. It'll look like someone does have power over your heartstrings. It'll look like someone does decide whether you get a raise at work. And A Course in Miracles, being one source that'll explain these kinds of things, has some very beautiful and eloquent moments where it's describing, if you but knew what we're talking about right here, everything in your life would change. When you realize that nothing is outside, not just to mention that nothing outside has power, but why? Because there isn't anything outside. We made believe in an outer world where we put on these bodysuits, hid our divine selves so that we couldn't access it and get solutions, and then tried to live with that. It's called just surviving. And then we're not even doing that. It's just slow death. So all this considered, and I'm going to wrap up now. All this considered, everything is backwards. I don't think you can easily go to work and say, guess what? I found out everything's backwards. So I'm the guy in the mailroom, and I'm actually going to step up at CEO now. And I don't think you can, easily do that in the world, because it's programmed to say that that's not real. So you're learning the truth in a world of lies. How well is that going to go over? Not usually very well, but the more I own this, the more it will download truth into the lie, and the lie will dissipate. That's a little bit of work, but that's why we call it light workers that do that. There's some tenacity and courage that it takes. I don't think you should go out announcing that this is what you're doing and that I woke up now, I get it, everything's flip-flop. I don't think that's the healthiest way to deal with this. I think it needs to be in here, consciousness, growing and rising. And oh my God, I get it. And me, I'm speaking these words here. And as I'm speaking them, I can feel it already affecting me. See? I mean, I'm busy talking, but yet, because it's all connected for me. I don't look at it as a talk separate from lifestyle. I can already feel this affecting me, because God, source God, is the thing that affects. It's a cause, so it has an effect. Your body is not a causer, so it has no effect. Factually, it can't. Your human life is an effect, a mirror of what's happening in your soul life. Your soul life is constantly choosing either the truth of God or not, and then it'll reflect that in your life. And when I say in your life, it's not just you, it's us. We are messed up. So you're not just needing to work on yourself to get this together. Remember, you're also carrying the rest of us, because we're in this together. One of us can go, I got it, but I'm not done. I can say I've got it, but there's approximately 8 billion other people that might not get it, or 7 billion, or whatever the number can be. Some don't get it yet. So my job is to be patient and try to get some of that energy to come this direction. By preaching it, writing about it, maybe. Mostly by being it. People can feel it even when you don't know they can feel it. People are watching even when their heads are turned. They're watching you. So a crisis happens and they're watching to see, is there another way of dealing with this? Because they're the chooser. It isn't the body, it's the chooser that's watching, really. And that's why the human eyes can be turned elsewhere, but the soul is all receptive. It's totally tuned in. So when some crisis is happening, your children, even if they're watching TV, they're watching you. They're tuning in saying, Mommy, Daddy, what is crisis? What is stress? And how should we react to it? When you're all like, going nuts, they're like, thank you. And so it is. And they've been programmed with it. And they'll be in therapy talking about you later. What you could have done is own that you have fears, own that. Give them to God and replace them with something else. So that when people are subtly tuning into you, you might show them something different. And the different isn't just in your behavior, it's I get it, in consciousness. So that's partly what I was saying, was I can feel shifts just by saying these words. I can feel something going to a new level of, I'm out here observing this. It isn't my soul is this and I'm observing from here. Does that make sense? This isn't what's in command. And I'm observing from this little spark, this big bad world. I'm actually observing this funny, what Course in Miracles calls a tiny mad idea. Basically a craziness. I'm having a psychotic experience. What's your psychotic experience, honey? Says God. What's your well, I was thinking that somebody that betrayed me the other day really hurt me. And God, the spiritual psychotherapist of the universe, is going to go, who? Well, this person. Honey, there is no other. You're being, you're having a schizophrenic episode. There is no one else here. No, I can see them. Can't you see them? They're all around. They're all out to get me. Honey, there is no other. What you're watching is a film, like a tape that's stored in your heart and soul that you're projecting onto the screen of life. And I know that can seem scary because creatures on movies can seem scary. But if you worked in the makeup room, putting on all the makeup, you're not as scared, are you? At creatures in the movies, and they're all bloody and their brains are, all these weird things you see in these movies. When you do the makeup, you're usually not, oh my God. Oh, that looks terrible. You'd have to be really messed up to believe in it when you're the one who. That's why I'm saying when we get that we're creating this, I'm telling you, it seems less creepy. There's a little less, that person can't get voted into office, and right and wrong and good and bad. You start going, this is what I and we are creating in the makeup room. I know they seem worse, but you added extra makeup on them. You see? You placed a thing on them. And the thing can be their behavior, it could be their gender, it could be their race. Whatever is your unresolved stuff in here is going to end up filtering into the movie you're projecting onto the screen of life. So, whatever you need to see today is going to come from here. And my soul is going to say, first of all, let's channel some of this into the world. I feel plugged in. Oh my God, I feel so plugged in. See, like for me, if I get some extra money, my thoughts go into how to share it with other people. I don't typically think, mine. I think my mind just does that. It's kind of like, I wonder how I can be helpful. Extra tips at a restaurant or whatever. That's how my mind works. So we can say, today I feel plugged in and I feel so good that I manifested some more money and I'm going to share that. Now you've created a cycle from God to you and from you to the world because you helped others. Now you have this creative flow from heaven to earth, unbroken, beautiful. Or here comes the flow. Maybe I should share it. No, wait, hold on. What's on the news? Oh my God. They're saying that there's a run at the store for diapers or whatever. What am I going to do? Toilet paper. Oh my, I better get there and fight with everybody else, for my Cabbage Patch dolls of the 2020s, They used to fight for those things in stores, But anyway, so I decide I'm going to go with the fearful route instead of the inspired route. That is my decision. How do you know which one you followed today? In a word, feeling. How are you feeling? And when you're in the zone, which all of us have been at least for a moment in life, when you're in the zone, you can just feel, time seems to fly, first of all, but you feel up, you feel inspired, right? That's good news. And that means I must have chosen well today. Nice job. When I'm angry, upset, competitive, reactive, short, whatever it happens to be, I'm drifting a little. I don't have to hate or judge myself. I'm drifting. Where am I drifting? Into believing that I am less than I really am. Well, I wouldn't if they hadn't taken my money. See? Ooh, I got tricked again. Who's they? And what money? You mean these thin pieces of paper that perish? Why not look at the thing that's real? Your light, who you really are. That's right. Nothing can be taken from me. Like Jesus saying to Pilate, you have no power except that which is given to you. That's all we're talking about here. The world has no power other than that which we give it. And you give it two types. One, the power that is powerful creator, and one that is powerless and only seems to react and miscreate. Which one am I listening to? And the world will tell you the sane one, because it's flip-flop, the sane one is the reactive, fear-based one. Because nobody's going to watch out for you but you. You better watch. That makes sense, and you follow it. But now you're living a fear-based life. So you were tricked that the truth is the lie and the lie is the truth. What I really want here is the truth of God. I am the way and the truth. I am the Christ, Jesus would say. Well, so am I. You and me, all of us. I am. All that Jesus did, he says, will do and more. So go the Jesus route. Go whatever route of any enlightened being you've ever been tuned into. My job is to bring a bit of the light to the world. But it's also my job to realize I'm going to shift from thinking it's a little bit of light to a big bad world. As of today, I'm going to realize I'm going to bring grand light to a tiny world that doesn't even exist. Is that making sense? Thank you. Let's take a moment to absorb what we're hearing today, including church bells. John's going to help us musically. Thank you. So centering. Taking a moment just to breathe and calm ourselves. And also a moment to give thanks for anything we heard today that made sense to us. It is now mine. It is ours. You say to yourself, it's mine. I believe this. This is my truth. I get it. Absorb it as yours, not something you heard. And breathe that in. Be proud, be excited. It's beautiful. I am always in this work that I'm doing, any of us is saying, I'm on this journey of remembrance. And every time there's an aha and those pivotal moments like, wow, that's cool. This is an accelerated version of me finding my real self. And it was here all along. To myself, I say, I'm very sorry that I ever believed that the real me was small and the false was grand, greater than myself. I'm sorry about that. I did that because I was choosing fearful thinking. Today I am committed to being born again into the divine self that I am. And as I warm into this idea, I will feel the desire to dance, to laugh, to smile, to give. The more I accept my divinity, the more it bursts out. Take a moment to imagine any challenge you've had this week or this month or whenever it happens to be a challenge that comes to mind. Be very clear, just see it. A physical, financial, emotional, whatever the case may be. And just take a moment to observe how believing that you're small and the world is big might have inflated this challenge. Be an observer. Navigate this. Look at this. Specifically in the context. If I believe I'm small and the world and my human self is what's real and big, how does that magnify your problem or problems? Just observe that, how that works. Inhale while you're aware of this, and exhale it, let it be gone for a moment. See the same crisis challenge, but in the opposite light. If it is a tiny dot in your grandness, how does that affect its magnitude or its power over you? Hoping, you're not wishing, it's common sense. You're just asking, what's the truth here? If this is small, how does it affect me? And if I'm the small one and it's grand, how does it affect me? And you see the natural outcome. Hopefully it's very obvious. When Jesus would walk into a room, he typically greeted people, peace. In part what he was saying, peace. What you think is the real is false. What you thought was false is real. So be at peace. You are all powerful. Calm down. Relax. Peace be with you was a declaration, an affirmation, a vision. He's saying, I'm holding for you. But we're supposed to do that for ourselves and each other as well. Be the one that walks into a room thinking, feeling the words, peace be with you. You can be walking into somebody who's losing or lost a loved one and still in your mind, peace to them. You can wish peace upon them. Affirm it. Know. Say to people that are struggling, not out loud, in your mind, my beloved, if you only knew who you were, this would pass so quickly you would not have even noticed it. You're not denying the hurt. You're letting them know, and there's more to the story. I hear the pain, I hear the hurt. Sorry to hear that. Let me hold you. Let me sit with you. Let me cry with you. But in the back of my mind, I refuse to forget the truth of who you are. That's what real prayer is supposed to look like. Despite the way things look, all is well, my friend. A moment of breathing this in, really declaring to yourself, I get it. Whether it comes and goes, whether it's in pieces, I don't care. I get it. I really get this. If I have mental illness, it isn't who I am. It's something I sometimes struggle with, seem to. If I'm alone, it seems to be, but it's a dream, a tiny little stage, screen on which my heart, soul beliefs are being projected. If I don't like what I'm seeing, I need to change my beliefs. And so it is. The last few moments of breath, absorbing the sounds. Stretch out, integrate into the moment, into the room. In a moment, we'll share brief feedback for just about a minute of what you heard, what you gained, what you learned. And preferably, whatever we gain with these talks or any talks, any book you read, anything you do, hopefully always attracting the highest teachings you can out of anyone, anything. The highest, even your own meditations. Attract the highest insights, epiphanies, and that's brilliant to do that. It's great. But you got to integrate them as well and then live them. Hear it, experience it, great. Absorb it and live it. Or it becomes nothing. Okay? So hopefully I covered some of the key words, as many of as I could. And even that concept of soul retrieval, healing, just remember, go into it tiny and you're going to be trying to do soul retrieval for someone, or they'll be trying to do it on little old you. But what if we allow ourselves to go, I'm this, and the soul retrieval is to simply go to this tiny thing and unravel it a bit. See, the proportion changed? Big problem to it's doable. Okay? Thank you. Can anyone share just on that one part, the meditation, the difference between this being the real thing and here's the God, or flip-flop the other way around? A few people on that, and then we're going to do our collection in the back, yes?
I wonder if it's totally restricted and they got really small and tight in my mind.
In the one, restricted and small. And doesn't that feel better? But it mustn't just be, well, that did feel better, and it can still be just a silly visualization. It felt better, but do we get that that's actually the truth? See? It's the truth. So hear it, absorb it, and live it. Yes?
I believe we are all spiritual beings on the human journey. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I shared with my mom about that because she's 89 and is feared about making that transition.
Right.
So to alleviate that fear, to understand this human journey here is full of crazy.
Yeah.
And to let that go and understand we're all spiritual beings.
Yeah.
And know also we're all students,
Yeah.
but we're also all teachers.
Yes. The bottom line is people will get it. They're all teachers and students. Teacher partly means I'm showing you, not teaching you. Teacher really means I'm demonstrating to you what I believe. And if I react to everything, I'm showing you that I believe I'm small. Now, try that one on. Think of really hurtful, harsh, selfish people on this planet. It's probably easy to think of a few. But remember, the way they're acting is actually based on one belief they have, that they're this and that they have to fight to survive in this. So it makes sense that they're acting out, doesn't it? Look what they're fighting up against. What if they suddenly, you click your finger and they got the opposite was true? Wouldn't that change them? And that's why our knowing everybody is really made in the image of God can help them all. It can bring them the peace that they have forgotten. Please stand for our closing prayer. Before you all leave today, feel gratitude that, from me, from our board, from our volunteers, from our members, all of us, chaplains, please feel our gratitude. We do greatly appreciate your presence all around the world and those of you here in person. Do remember that tonight we've got Sacred Soundscapes. John and Jade will be doing one of their concert processes here. Do what you can to attend. It's 6 to 8. And the last time, we're still hearing tremendous feedback. But a hand of applause to John, our musician today. He's in the foyer over there with materials. He can say hello and answer questions and sign autographs and all that. But join us tonight for their presentation if you can. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. The power of God protects us. We are the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. We are the presence of God. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Thank you all very much. Peace be with you.